Welcome to the Cold War Simulation Teacher Orientation video. This video is designed to help teachers understand how the Cold War simulation works. This is the European map for the Cold War simulation. The countries in blue are the NATO countries. The Warsaw Pact countries are in pink. Independent communist countries are in the light green. And neutral or non-aligned countries are in the yellow. On the map, tanks represent armored divisions. NATO divisions are colored different colors to represent their independent control. Missile bases are represented by rockets, white for NATO and green for Soviet missiles. Subs are represented by the submarines, and when we say that the submarines have put to sea, we just click on them, and we can go down to the bottom here and click on this one, and we can send that to the back. Here with our tools. And now when we send that to the back, the submarine disappears on the map. And then of course when we want to bring it to the front so it can be visible again, we just bring to front. The bombers are also connected together here and down below as well. So that they can be, when the bombers are launched, they disappear off the page as well. This allows you to move them from front to back to be seen and unseen without actually moving them. And they're all connected together. When we say the missiles go hot, we click on the missiles and we come up to our fill color and we turn those red. And that means all missiles are hot and they're ready to be launched. And of course we can go back and change those back to normal color. If we have a Soviet strike on NATO, we click down here on the NATO and we can bring those to the front. And then you can see the nuclear attack against NATO forces in Western Europe. If we have a Soviet strike, we click on this symbol down here and we bring those to front as well. And it will show representation of a nuclear strike against the Soviet Union, a massive nuclear strike. So that shows you kind of how you can, how it works with simulation on how to launch massive nuclear strikes. You can also do single strikes, which we'll talk about later, just by destroying armored divisions or particular nuclear sites, if students choose to do so. Navy, moving armored divisions and missiles are pretty much automatic. You may take more time based on your judgment on how long it takes to move across the ocean. For example, if the Soviets are moving missiles to a region located closer to America, that's how that would work. There's really no Navy on the map. This is a map of the United States. The same details work here. Down below you have your tools for moving things forward and back, launching the bombers, putting the subs to sea, a Soviet attack, a U.S. attack on Cuba. All those things. You can move the tanks around, of course. So that's the U.S. map. Of course, we also have a map of China and the Soviet Union in the Pacific. And we can launch subs in the same way there from the Soviet Union. So those are the three big maps. Launch codes will be, for launching nuclear weapons, launch codes will be given to those countries that possess nuclear weapons at the time of the simulation, which is around 1962, and the Cold War Operations Manual will detail how the launch sequence is to be initiated. These are the cards that you give students, and it gives you the launch codes, and this is how they will launch their nuclear weapons. It's top secret information, of course, and that's why it's blacked out. The next thing we look for in the simulation is the student overview. The student overview gives students an introduction to the Cold War simulation and sets the stage for what they are about to learn. We also have a teacher overview. The teacher overview explains explains what the simulation is about, the background information, and what we're trying to accomplish with the simulation. So kind of a short introduction. The teacher instructions will list the documents included in the simulation, how you should pick your leaders, and how to set up the classroom and directions for the orientation day. It's several pages long and pretty much details everything you need to know. The world situation summary kind of sets the stage for the time zone, talks about what happened after World War II, gives a lot of Cold War details, mostly the background information on the current situation in the Cold War simulation. It also gives background information on how the Cold War started, describing the situation after World War II. This is the battle calculator. The battle calculator is used to determine the winners of conventional battles in the Cold War simulation. In the Cold War simulation, conventional forces are represented by armored divisions, or tanks, on the map. Each tank represents one armored division. In this example, 5 Warsaw Pact armored divisions are battling 2 NATO tank divisions. The result is the NATO armored divisions are destroyed and 2 of the Warsaw Pact armored divisions are destroyed, with 3 remaining. And that's automatically calculated. All you do is put in the number of divisions for each side. The ratings are already set because there's only 2 sides, and it'll tell how much power, and it'll tell you exactly how many tanks are left for each side. And here's a short video kind of showing one of the binders that you'll make for the students for each country. And all the materials are included to print these off, and you make them yourself. You can see it opens up. There's a flag in there for each country. All the information is detailed for them. Students really like this. They want to have it in front of them so they can read and kind of know what's going on. I put the maps in as well and keep everything colored because they kind of like to have it as a reference, and they look through them quite a bit. Leader assignments. This is where this is kind of a spreadsheet. Class sizes can vary from school to school. The Cold War leaders list is where you assign students leadership roles for each country. The list is organized in order of importance, and in case you have fewer students, the Soviet Union is probably your most critical pick when you go to this. There's also display flags. Display flags are provided for each country and can be taped to the front of their tables or desks. This gives students a visual impression of independent, NATO, and Warsaw Pact countries. I print these off with photo paper and I laminate them, and I use them every year. Some of them I've been using for 8 years with the World War I and World War II simulations. This is the classroom setup, how you'll set up the classroom for students, the 2 sides, NATO and Warsaw, and then the independent countries are down below. This diagram shows that the classroom will be organized. Students are better able to communicate with their groups, but are also able to meet individually in smaller groups or one-on-one. I always allow students to speak in private outside the classroom, but be aware emotions run very high with this simulation, and heated arguments can break out. So you got to keep your ears open so they don't disturb other people's classes. The Cold War Operations Manual details all the aspects of the Cold War simulation. It works as a legend to all the symbols on the map and explains what they mean and their primary use. For a more detailed explanation of the Operations Manual, you can watch the student orientation video. Defcon Posters. We use these posters on 3-ring binders at the backs of the room of both sides so that they can both see what defense condition they're on. The defense condition page. The defense condition page details the alert status for the group. For NATO and Warsaw Pact, the page also details the actions that are taken and the status alerts. Top secret documents. Each country has its own top secret documents. The document details each country's military capabilities, a summary of the interests and personality of the country's people, and views. It also has each country's objectives. The Cold War Simulation Journal and Report. The journal will give you an inside view of what students are thinking during the simulation. The Cold War Simulation Report has higher order thinking questions directly related to the real Cold War and the simulation. Students should work on them during the simulation, but not necessarily during the class period unless they have downtime. Customizability. Just like the World War I simulation, World War II simulation, the Cold War simulation is very customizable. These lessons are very dynamic, they're very student-centered, and it's a lot of fun. But they also learn a lot. They feel what's going on, and anytime they feel something, that means that they're going to remember it and learn from it. So these are very emotional simulations, and they kind of show the kids exactly what it was like. And most of the comments are usually about how they couldn't believe how close we came to this in 1962. Thank you for listening.